Pull up a stool. Get comfortable. We're doing something today that usually starts fights in the comment section, but it's a conversation that's long overdue. 50 plus years of Dungeons and Dragons. 10, arguably 11, major versions of the game. Thousands of dollars spent on books that most people use as doorstops. The question I get asked most often is, Tenkar, why do you stick with the old stuff? Is it just nostalgia? And the answer is no. Nostalgia certainly is a hell of a drug, but doesn't help you run a game for 6 people on a Friday night. Utility does, procedure does. Today, we're ranking every major edition of D&D from worst to best. Based on one single metric, how well does this system support the referee? By the way, this is a collab with Joe the Warrior and Joe Block, the Greyhawk Grognard. I am quite certain we don't agree on much, so watch all the videos, they're linked below. Now, we have to start at the bottom. And listen, I'll be honest. Look, if these are your favorite games, I'm not saying you're wrong for having fun. The system is simply working against you. At number 10, 4th edition, 2008. Is that a surprise to anybody? 4E is a masterpiece of tactical skirmish design. If I wanted to play a fantasy-themed board game with perfectly balanced combat, oh god, I'd pick 4E. But as a role-playing game, as an adventure game, it failed miserably. It turned every character into a collection of powers and cooldowns. It killed the exploration pillar. You didn't explore a dungeon in 4E, you moved from one encounter bubble to the next. For a ref, it was a nightmare to prep. You couldn't just throw a monster at the party, you had to balance the math of the encounter like you were working for an accounting firm. Now, number 9 might be controversial. 3rd edition and 3.5. 2000 or 2008 approximately. 3E saved the hobby. I give it a huge amount of respect for that. But it introduced the build culture or the Christmas tree. This is where the game moved from the table to the character sheet. If you didn't plan your feats from level 1 to 20, you were playing it wrong. For the ref, the high level play was a disaster. Prepping an 18th level NPC took hours. It was the era of system mastery, where the person who read the most splat books won the game before the first die was even cast. At number 8, 5.5, or 2024 the revision, or D&D Forever. It's too early to see the full fallout, but we know what it is. It's 5e with more stuff. More buttons to push for the players, right? More tactical options that ultimately just slow down the game. It's designed for the digital tabletop era. Oops, that VTT didn't work out too well, did it? It's D&D as a service. It doesn't solve the referee's biggest problem, which is a lack of clear procedures. It just adds more paint to the car. Coming in at number 7, 5th edition, 2014. The T-shirt of D&D, because it fits everyone, but it's not particularly good at anything. It's a natural language game that actually requires a lot of hidden rulings. It's better than 4E. It's probably good that 4E came before it to make you appreciate 5E. But it did bring back some of the soul of the game, but it's mushy, it's clunky, there's just too much. There's no danger, right? Characters are superheroes by level 3, if not earlier. And as a referee, you spend most of your time trying to figure out how to challenge a party that can effectively teleport and or fly and certainly heal to full health after a short nap. No, not my cup of tea. Now, number 6 is AD&D 2E, and that was 1989, And I'm going to say I ran 2E from 89 to 97. So I ran it for a good long time. This is the era of the storyteller, right? It gave us the best settings. It gave us Planescape, Dark Sun, Ravenloft. Yeah, all right. It also gave us Birthright and a few others that are less memorable, but the rules got timid. They removed the edge. They moved away from the dungeon and into the epic plot and away from the gold for XP. It's 1A with the cool parts sanded off to make it family friendly, right? No more demons, no more devils. Beelzebub, blah, 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 whatever. And it added in endless splat books. It's fine. But it's where the referee started to become more of I don't know, a director, producer. You were no longer a neutral arbiter of the world. There were always major events that were going on in the pre-published settings. And now we're going to get to what I consider to be the good stuff, right? The top 5. And coming in at number 5, OD&D, 1974. The Little Brown Books. And this is hard to rank because it's not really a complete game until the supplements start hitting, but the original white box is a kit. It's the Wild West of early RPG. You had to make it your own. And it has the most soul, but it's nearly impossible to run straight out of the box. You needed chainmail or the Greyhawk supplement just to comprehend what you had. But I have a white box. Actually, I got 2. And the vibes from it are magical. Coming in at number 4, Holmes Basic, 1977. And this is the first time that D&D started to feel planned out and professional. I mean, J. Eric Holmes had a strange, almost psychedelic vision for the game, and it's quirky. It only goes to level 3, and theoretically, it was meant as an introduction to AD&D 1A. But theoretically. But it's incredibly evocative. It's the bridge between the chaos of the 70s and the upcoming structure of the 80s. Number 3, AD&D 1A. 1978 for the Monster Manual, or 77 for the Monster Manual. I mean, I'm putting that down wrong. 78 for the Player's Handbook, 79 for the DMG. It's the Atmosphere King. Gary Gygax's prose is legendary. I learned so much of my vocabulary, the SAT words, from those 2. Well, especially the DMG. My God. Half those rules are probably unnecessary. They're filler, but they feel important. And when you sit behind an AD&D 1A screen, you're not just playing a game. You're engaging in like a piece of art. And it's ranked 3 because it's a bit of a mess, but it's a beautiful mess. And I have a lot of nostalgia for it because it's where I cut my gaming teeth on. Christmas break of 1979, 1980. And then we get to the top of the mountain. We've only got 2 left, folks. Number 2, BECMI. When I say BECMI, I'm including the Rules Encyclopedia, although the Rules Encyclopedia technically doesn't include the Immortal rules, but you probably don't need them anyway. If you want one book to take to a desert island, this is the one. Frank Messer took the game and organized it into a nearly perfect progression from basic to Immortal. I personally think the companion rules are about as far as I'd want to take it, but it's an amazing, amazing package. The Encyclopedia, again, everything but the immortal rules. It has everything: mass combat, kingdom management. Who would have thought? Planar travel, ship combat. It's a complete world in one hardback. And it's only number 2 because it gets a little bloated and it's a little heavy, a little more than what I personally want. But for 95% of the tables out there, if you're playing an OSR game, it deserves a lot more love than it gets. And of course, number 1, and if you're surprised by this, you happen to watch this channel, BXD&D. Okay, 1981, Moldvay, Cook, Marsh. The gold standard, right? The peak. Are a pair of 64-page books from 1981 the best version of D&D? Well, yeah, most likely. Because it's a closed system. It's perfectly balanced, but not in terms of character powers, but in terms of the game loop. You have a procedure for the dungeon turn. You have a procedure for wilderness travel. You have a reaction table that makes social encounters interesting. You have morale checks. That means you don't have to fight every goblin to the death. In BX, the referee doesn't have to prep a story. You prep a situation. And the procedures of the game generate the story for you. It's fast. You can roll up a character in 3 minutes. You can resolve a combat in 10, maybe 15. It gets out of the way and lets you play. It's the most honest the game has ever been because it's not trying to sell you a subscription or a plastic miniature. It's just trying to give you a great Friday night. So that's my list. You might disagree, and that's fine. The Tavern is a place to debate. But if you're tired of the modern slog, do yourself a favor. Go find a copy of the 81 Basic set or the Rule Encyclopedia. See how it feels to have the rules actually work for you instead of against you. Before we close up shop, I want to give a massive shout out to the 230 plus minions and Tavern members. You guys and gals are the reason I don't have to worry about corporate sponsors or official brand deals. I can just sit here and tell you the truth about the hobby. If you want to join that group and support the Tavern, check the links in the description, subscribe, hit the bell, and let me know in the comments. What's your number 1 version of D&D? Keep your torches lit. God bless. And I'm out.